Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
California. What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the mind of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, June 30th. LA Galaxy 1-1 draw at San Jose. Come from behind, had chances to win, couldn't pull the trigger. Joseph Paintsil couldn't pull the trigger. Gabriel couldn't pull the trigger. Couldn't get one by Danielle, the San Jose goalkeeper, except for the one that Marco Royce scored. We're going to talk about the LA Galaxy's performance, certainly focused in on those designated players and what you can expect from the July 4th game as we sort of look in that direction. But just how bad is this team? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, and we'll have a lot of fun doing it. Now, to help me do all of that, a somewhat deflated, but always looking good, Kevin, the Panda, Baxter, more Panda than ever there, Kev.
Hey, Josh.
There you go, buddy. There you go. I was worried about you there for a second. You look like you look a little deflated. If I'm not being too forward there.
I am a little bit, yeah. I mean,
okay. All right. Did you had that plan? That was going to be your plan, huh? That was you were like, I'm gonna.
That was the plan, yeah.
It's sort of like, what is it? Catch Me If You Can. I would just watch the preview for that. It was magician wise. You spun around and doing the whole thing. Yeah.
So I didn't know how much you watched what was going on my camera when you were doing the intro, and I thought I could sneak that panda in there. What happened was it was really bizarre. Last week, if you remember, we had our little Statue of Liberty panda that we talked about.
Right, 100%.
And you asked how much panda stuff I have, and it's there's some stuff, not a ton, but some stuff. Anyway, the next morning, taking a walk around the neighborhood, and someone has this big old panda out there on the front lawn, and there's a little sign on it, and I thought, I'm going to go over that sign. Probably says like for disabled American vets or pick up for what
Right.
And it said free, and I thought this is too good. After Josh told me I need panda stuff. So I picked it up and carried it a mile home.
Right.
I'm walking down the street with this big old deflated panda. So now we got a panda.
That's a trash panda then, is what you're saying. It was a trash panda because you got it.
Yeah,
basically
actually,
in the
very
trash.
good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he needs to get more of that fluff inside of him.
I think that's probably why they got rid of it. Did you hit that with a black light before you invited that into your house? I just did you maybe throw some disinfectant, maybe some Lysol or something like that? Or
no, it's right off the street.
And now you sleep with it right between you and Mrs. Panda. You're a throuple now. Is that what it is?
Yeah, this panda took Ozempic, I think. It's lost a lot of weight.
So much fun. All right. LA Galaxy, 1-1 draw at San Jose. Kevin, a game, if I want to be completely honest, they should have won. And how many times have we been able to say that this year? At least a handful of times.
Yeah, see, that's where I want to go with this. I'm done with that. Now, I will say a month ago, I was saying, look, if you squint hard enough and look this way and the light's just right, you can see a path to the playoffs. No, this team is bad. We'll talk about how we'll talk later about how it resembles 2023, but I'm done with this. Oh, they look so good. And if they just get a little bit better, we're 20 games into the season now.
Yep.
They've got 9 points. They could be eliminated from the Supporters Shield race in 2 more games. They could be eliminated from the conference race in 3 more games. That means they can't win the conference or the Supporters Shield in mid-July.
Yeah.
It's a bad team.
It's a bad team, certainly. But you can't just, I don't know. I don't think that's fair. As people who are supposed to be observers of the team, right? If they have a good game and they didn't win it, we're supposed to say it. Regardless, I'm already a believer of you. I refuse to pick them to win any games. They don't have the confidence in them. So I agree with you. But watching the San Jose game, I was like, why does this team not win games? What seems to be the major issue with this?
That is a good point, but it's also, we've been saying that all year. I feel like we come on here every Monday and it's, oh man, they hit the post, and it was so. It's almost got to the point where it's like saying, hey, the sky is blue again. It's like, yeah, it feels like it happens every week. Oh, they could have won, but they didn't.
Didn't say it against Colorado.
Game,
Didn't
Colorado
say it. There
game
you
was
go.
brutal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colorado game was brutal.
One of the worst games I've watched in a considerably long time, right? And I agree with you. You
guys went over that on the Thursday show.
Yeah, we did, right? And the whole it's like, no, there's nothing there. And again, it comes down to, I don't know if it's selfishness or just overplaying sometimes. I do think that this LA Galaxy team is a team that overthinks and overplays and overpasses sometimes. And then sometimes I'm sitting there screaming, just hold the ball a little bit longer. Now you're getting impatient, right? And you can see some of that too. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly where it is. But if you want to look at the San Jose game and say the LA Galaxy had 6 big chances in that game, 6 big chances in that game. Joseph Paintsil could have scored 2 or 3 goals. Gabriel Peck should have scored at least 1 and probably had a good look at 2 or 3. And I'll tip my hat to Danielle, the keeper for San Jose. I thought he was outstanding, and he stopped Gabriel Peck 3 times, right? And so you
what
look
was
at
the
that.
XG, like 17 goals or something for the Galaxy?
I did not. So there's 2 XGs, right? We use the one that MLS uses, which is a certain one. So we can go at 2.8, so almost 3. So 2.8 to 0.9 to San Jose. So the Galaxy almost 3 goals, San Jose almost 1. If we head over to FOTMob, it's 2.4 to 0.6. So basically the same, just the same point spread between the two. But a little bit different numbers there. But big chances again, 6 big chances. 6 big chances. The Galaxy capitalized on one of them. How many times do we have to watch? And I think you see it, Kevin, and I think all of the fans see it too. How many times do we have to watch Joseph Paintsil get in a position to score and not score? I'm getting flashbacks, and it's listen, this is a not safe for work comparison. I'm starting to get the Kevin Cabral feel on Joseph Paintsil all of a sudden. And that's a horrible thing to say to anybody at any time. But you can't erase, in my mind, what Joseph Paintsil and Gabriel Peck and Dejan Joveljic and Ricky Puig did last year. Those guys are still there. Is Dejan Joveljic scoring goals like crazy? He's not, right? So same thing. There's drop-offs. And maybe to your point is everybody had a great year last year. It was the best year of their lives. Yay, rah, rah, rah. And then this year it's just more return to the mean. But with guys who are as young as Gabriel Peck, there's nowhere to go but up. And even after his last season, there's nowhere to go but up. But here we are down.
So we had 4 guys scored 10 or more goals last season. Never happened in MLS. 2 of those 4 guys had never scored more than 8 goals. Ricky Puig and Gabriel Peck never scored more than 8 goals in life. So they overperformed. So you got to look at, and you got to say, well, Joveljic has gone on, but you got to say Paintsil is the guy who's done it before, should be able to plug in and do it. So far this year, and we talked about the injuries. That's early in the season. That's gone. Everyone's healthy. Everyone's playing together. We've got a big sample size now, 20 games. They're just not delivering. Paintsil and Peck, who both had double-digit goals last season, they've combined for 4 goals this season. The two of them together. Yep. They had 4 goals in the Minnesota playoff game alone. So there you go. And Paintsil, I mean, that's a good analogy of the Kevin Cabral thing, although I think Paintsil has actually got himself in much better positions. For me, it kind of reminds me of an old baseball thing, when Steve Sachs was playing for the Dodgers and got the yips and couldn't throw the ball to first base. Yeah. He could field it. He could get to it. He had range. Everything was good. It's just then when he had to finish the play, he couldn't. And that's where I think Paintsil is. He gets there. He's moving good without the ball. He's getting into the position. And then when he has to do the last final thing, he can't do it. And his confidence is shot. He looks like a lost guy out there. And I don't know if you saw on the MLS broadcast, but on Apple. Afterwards, Greg Vanney went over and gave him a big hug and whispered something in his ear and seemed to be comforting him. I don't think Paintsil was crying or anything, but his spirit's been crushed. There's no doubt about that.
I'd be crying after that game if that happened. I asked Greg Vanney about Joseph Paintsil. Here, let's get to some lineups, and then I'll tell you what Greg Vanney said about Joseph Paintsil. A 1-1 draw for the LA Galaxy. Marco Royce scores in the 70th. We need to talk about Marco Royce, because if we talk about the bad things, we should at least talk about a good thing. And Marco Royce is the Galaxy's best player this year and continues to show it. And I think there's hope that, one, he's feeling, quote-unquote, better than he has in quite a long time. And two, is he's producing. He's creating chances, and he's finishing chances. So, if there's a shining light right now on the LA Galaxy, it's Marco Royce. The lineup, again, I think this is some changes, but I liked all the changes. I didn't have a problem with any of the changes. So let's go with Novak Mitrovic in goal again, Miki Imane on the right side. You had Zonka coming in for Maya Yoshida. Maya Yoshida has been, apparently, according to Greg Vanney, still dealing with some quad stuff. It's not debilitating, but playing so many games in rapid succession, they wanted to give him a little bit more of a rest between games, so that's why you didn't see Maya Yoshida come in until a little bit later. Marco Royce wearing the captain's armband because Maya Yoshida wasn't there. So you got Zonka in there. You got Amiro Garces, who actually they switched sides too, because Zonka went over to the right side. Garces went over to the left side. They said that Zonka's more comfortable on the right-hand side. Greg Vanney said that Amiro Garces can play on either side, and he thought that both of those guys had a pretty good game. You then got Julian Aude. And Julian Aude is somebody I've been begging to get more minutes in this, and so he starts over John Nelson. Again, I think Aude brings a little bit more going forward. Thought he did okay defensively, so that wasn't a problem. Then you got Cerrillo in there with two more offensive, attacking players with Marco Royce and Diego Fagundes in there. So Cerrillo's sitting a little bit deeper. Marco Royce and Diego Fagundes able to run out and combine and do some stuff. I actually like that look a lot. I know without Sanabria in there, sometimes the Galaxy can sort of miss a little bit of bite. But I thought that was okay. Gabriel Peck on the right-hand side. You had Nascimento up there in the center now, getting all the minutes, all the starts for Nascimento. So that's a kid, again, to continue watching. Should have had an assist on the Royce goal, but because it was a rebound goal, he didn't. So that he's still, I think, growing into that spot, but looking good. And then Joseph Paintsil on the left-hand side. So that is your starting lineup for the LA Galaxy. This game should focus, I think, really on the designated players. You can talk about Marco Royce, which we will, and he played well. But when you look at who played well and who didn't play well, I would put Gabriel Peck in the played well and got unlucky on the night, because I thought he put in several good shots. But Joseph Paintsil, a guy, and I'm with you. I don't know what you can do to Joseph Paintsil. I asked Greg Vanney about it. This is what Greg Vanney said. He said, I feel like he's maybe second guessing himself or overthinking the situation. A lot of times I feel like he's decelerating in the moment when maybe he needs to accelerate through it and make it more natural and seamless. I feel like he's in his head a bit. That can happen. You miss a number of chances and you start to overthink situations. That was him a little bit. Honestly, having him out there means we're getting chances. If we don't have him out there, I'm not sure we're getting those same chances sometimes. We got to help him work through it and get some repetition on the training field, as we have a couple of days this week. These two games came quickly. Just try to get him on the training field and try to get him in a natural flow. I just feel like he's overthinking many of these situations. That's Greg Vanney on Joseph Paintsil.
There was at least one opportunity where he was at the top of the box and got a pass, and I thought he should have turned and shot, and he passed it because it was my feeling was he just wasn't confident. By then he had already missed two open shots and decided he wasn't going to do that again. So now he's again second guessing himself, definitely in his head a little bit. He takes those open shots and just seems to overhit the ball, and I think if he just goes back to the fundamentals, I think he'll be okay, but it feels like he's just simply lost his confidence.
Yeah, loss of confidence, but loss of skill in that as well. We're watching him dribble the ball out of bounds. We're watching him not be able to bring balls down and sort of control them. And I never thought he was great at it, and certainly he had some misses last year, but where were those crosses? And I've sort of been going back to this, I think, after the Colorado game, but where are the crosses into the box that are dangerous? They're going to get guys like Nascimento. Remember, Dejan Joveljic used to get crosses in the box and finish balls. Where are those crosses? We're not seeing that from Gabriel Peck. We're not seeing it from Joseph Paintsil, and those are crosses that came in last year. I thought Peck, for the first time this year, and maybe it was a product of San Jose playing more man-to-man and Gabriel Peck being able to sort of put his defender on his heels. But finally, they were playing Gabriel Peck in behind people. They were playing in Joseph Paintsil in behind people. There was space and running along the wings. There was the ability to get guys into the box. I felt like the Galaxy were late getting to the box a lot of times. I feel like Marco Royce is a great late runner, but sometimes arrives a little too late when I think he's expecting that there's going to be at least some confusion in there with Nascimento. And I'm not seeing all of the Nascimento perfect runs from inside to outside, sort of taking guys with him and opening up space for it. That being said, I think Nascimento is the Galaxy's best chance at scoring goals from that number 9 spot. So right now, I don't question that, but I haven't seen a lot of that. So if you are relying on, and I think we all looked at it, Kevin, and said, without Ricky Puig, we know that Gabriel Peck and Joseph Paintsil are going to have to try to pick up the slack for Ricky Puig. They get too selfish in some of these moments, and I know you said, hey, you would have liked to see Joseph Paintsil shoot. And you're right. In some moments where they're like, they have the chance, that's when they're passing. It seems like it's always the opposite situation where you're sitting there going, you should have taken a shot. Or, no, that was definitely the time to pass. Those types of things. But we're starting to see that they just don't have a clue of where people are going to be in the box and sort of how to attack it. And I think Greg Vanney has to fix that. I think there has to be more crossing, and I think you have to find runs that are going to support those guys a little bit more. That being said, Joseph Paintsil can't keep dribbling the ball out off the touchline every time he tries to go down the line. He can't just give the ball up. He was hitting crosses in the Colorado game that Kevin was like 4 feet away from the goal, and all of a sudden he knocks it and it goes into row Z. Like, you can't keep that up. I think somebody said to bench Joseph Paintsil, and maybe that would fix some of the problems. But I think Greg Vanney is sort of saying, I don't have another guy who can play there, right? Whenever he says,
Also, you bench a guy like that that's really searching for it. Sometimes that can backfire because now the guy, he can't fix it sitting on the bench. It's there. He can feel it. He can touch it. He just can't. He needs to get on the field and fix it. And you're right. I mean, I think this is something that Greg Vanney needs to address. And again, 2 months ago, we're talking about, they've never played with Sanabria. They never played with Ramirez.
Right.
Royce is still hurt. Okay, fine. They'll figure it out. It's 20 games in. These guys played a full season with one another last year. Those two, we're talking about the remaining killer Ps. It's difficult to give them much of an excuse on this. They should be better than that by now.
No, the goodwill's gone. Like, you don't have any more goodwill. Right? You've burned through all the goodwill. You've done all this stuff. It is what it is. I did like somebody on Twitter said to me, this feels like a team that's like that we're talking. This feels like how we're talking about this team. That this team is like in March, right? You're sort of like, hey, good chances. Like they were saying, and we keep waiting for them to build off of these like momentum. Sort of, you went to San Jose. San Jose's top 6 in the Western Conference. You go to Stanford Stadium, which is a home field advantage for them, despite the fact that the field was crap. Greg Vanney didn't need to tell me the field was crap, by the way. You could watch that the field was crap. There's actually numbers that support the fact that the field was crap, too. But the field was crap. You get there, and you go in there, and you battle head-to-head, and quite honestly, you should have walked away with 3 points. Now, you didn't, because this is the 2025 LA Galaxy. They find ways to not win. And in this case, not a defensive problem, which most of the time we're like, Kevin, this is a defensive problem. We're having all these defensive issues. This is an offensive game. You get 6 big chances, and you only score 1 goal. That's an offensive problem.
Yeah. I mean, once again, we're back to coulda, shoulda, woulda. That's the holy trinity of regret, and the Galaxy seem to be there. Every game, they've given up more goals than anyone in the league. They have the highest goal differential in the league. I think they're second or third from the bottom in goals scored. Again, nine points, 1 win. They're on pace to do a lot of incredible things in the record book. It's going to be a big rewriting of the record book. And we didn't even talk. I think we might have mentioned it last week. The All-Star team has been announced now. The first time in the history of MLS, there's not a Galaxy player on the All-Star team. The last World Cup was the first time in the history of the Galaxy that they didn't have a player on the World Cup team, a U.S. World Cup team.
Right. So
the franchise seems to be in a little bit of a rut. And we were talking before the show about how this reminds me of 2023.
Right.
Because the team is...
I would just like to remind you, whenever you say that the team is in a rut, they did win an MLS Cup last year, right? I know it doesn't feel like that. I know, and I understand that. I just would, again, let's just place set this correctly.
And let's go back to that for just a second, because you make a good point. That was a magical year. I don't think any Galaxy fan would give up that magic. They didn't lose a game at home. They had 19 wins, tied their modern era record. They won their 6th MLS Cup. It was a magical year. No one ever expected that. No one saw that coming, and everyone kept waiting for the bubble to burst, and it didn't. And they went all the way through, and they won without Ricky Puig. in the championship game. That was the last straw. That was like, oh, well, they can't do this now. He's their midfield motor, and they won. And that was great. I don't think anyone would want to take that away. But this year, attendance is down by 17%.
Right.
If we go back to the 2023, if you and I were talking about this before the show, that was a good team. When you look at the players on that team, that was a good team. They should have been much better than 8 wins. And when you looked at it, it was like, no, you don't really need that any more players. You need to work with the players you have and get these guys to perform the way they need to perform. That was 2023. Off the field, there was a whole Chris Klein, Jovan thing with the banners at the stadium and the boycott, and then Will came in and kind of turned things around. This feels a little bit like that, in that the team on the field, the players, when you look at them, you say this should be a really good team. This was a team, 10 of the 14 players from MLS Cup are back. They should have done much better than they've done so far. And now we get sort of the front office stuff where attendance is down. There's talk of, there's not talk of boycotts. Viewing parties have been canceled. Road trips have been canceled by supporters angry over the Galaxy's lack of a statement regarding the ice raids in Southern California. So now the supporters are fighting with the front office. That didn't happen last year. It's just is very reminiscent of 2023. And that stuff off the field is a distraction to what's going on the field as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good situations all over. I mean, you can look at it as one of our people in the chat room said that, by the way, I love this screen name, my meniscus hurt. Fun fact that the Galaxy team has the lowest point total through 20 games in league history. So in league history, nobody has been this low. Also in Galaxy history, just in case you wanted to add that and throw that onto the fire.
Galaxy would be a subset of the league.
Yes, they definitely can be. But looking at that, I look at what they're able to do, and I think we've talked about this, but and especially you, Kevin, I think you've talked about this before, but sometimes you forget how hard you have to work and the effort that you have to put in and the amount that you have to do in order to win games, right? And I think the LA Galaxy figured that out in 2024 pretty early. And because they figured it out early, they were able to sort of say, this is the effort. We know the effort we have to put in, and this is going to be, and we're a pretty good team, and there's a lot of confidence. And when you don't have that confidence, when that confidence is pulling back so much, you start to forget what effort you need to do in order to win games on the road, because there's more effort. If you're going to win on the road, you have to put in more effort than usually the games you have to win at home. That being said, the LA Galaxy just need to figure out how to win. One win all year at home, at home, but 1 win total. They haven't won a game on the road. That's a problem. I will say this, and I think this is interesting, and I pointed this out, and people can make of it what it is. The Galaxy have currently played 4 more games away than they have at home. That means that just by the law of averages from the home games and the away games, that the Galaxy should have a lower point total than basically what it should be at the end, because you should get more points at home, by the way. This is not like, suddenly the Galaxy are going to go undefeated at home. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in general, you get more points at home. As a matter of fact, we can prove that out, because we actually know that the LA Galaxy this year, even though they only have the 1 win, they actually do get more points at home than they have on the road. So being 4 games back, they're already hurting themselves in that. But having played that, right, now you're into the part of the year where all of a sudden they have 3 home games, Kevin. This is big. I actually asked
in a fourth game that's essentially at home.
Just have to go up the road. Bed. Yeah, so they get to stay in their own bed for 4 games basically in a row, which is something we haven't seen happen this year. The most games the Galaxy have played at home in a row is 2. Not saying that means anything, but I'll also point out that when you look at last year's schedule compared to this year's schedule, last year's schedule lined up better for them than this year's schedule, 100%. Just look at it and just in general terms. So we can look at that. But the Galaxy have to learn how to put the effort in, and they have to learn how to close out games. I'll say this. I think that there are people who mistake what happened in the San Jose game at the end of that game, and if we sort of go to the the summary in there, and in the 73rd minute you bring in Cuevas for Yamane, and then you bring in Nelson for Aude, right? And then in the 84th minute you bring in Maya Yoshida for Diego Fagundes, and sort of you're trying to fill in those back lines and make the defense a little more stout. Some people took that as the LA Galaxy were playing for a draw. And what I saw...
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. What do you think of that?
I thought, one was I wasn't convinced that there were 2 things you're trying to accomplish in that, right? One is Greg Vanney had talked about the fact that the guys were tired and that they were going to try to get some legs, some some new legs in there, right? So you bring in Cuevas, you bring in Nelson. Aude had been running up and down the left side the entire time. He looked gassed. So you're sort of like, okay, it's probably time to bring Nelson in anyway, because otherwise you're going to have to do something for that. So for me, what you did and what Greg Vanney, I think, successfully did was sort of buoy the defense, make sure that you weren't going to not walk away with no points, but the Galaxy still had scoring chances and they still had people on the field who could score. So I had zero issues with it. Marco Royce played another 90 minutes, played 90 minutes in Colorado, played 90 minutes in this game. So I thought it was, imagine how upset people would have been if the Galaxy would have given up a goal in that game and walked away with 0 points, right?
Well, you're right about Marco Royce. He gets the Heart of the Year award already. But I think I was heavily influenced by the Apple TV announcers who said, oh, the Galaxy are, they're going to play to keep the point. And that's the way it kind of looked. But and
that's not the way it played out, though. That's the Galaxy had scoring chances.
Maybe not. But that's the way when you look at who they brought in. And I started thinking about that at the time of like, look, they're not going anywhere. They got 8 points. What does it matter if they have 9? Maybe, and they're on the front foot. They're definitely, San Jose is like looking at their watches going, when is this thing going to be over?
Right.
And the Galaxy are pushing forward. And so part of my thought was like, you know what, a win would mean more than a loss at this point. Getting a win, bouncing back from that Colorado effort, winning the rivalry game at Stanford, getting that next goal, which looked like it was coming at any second. Maybe they should have pushed for it. And so, I don't know what was in Greg Vanney's mind, but as I said, I was heavily influenced by the MLS announcers or Apple TV announcers who made it look like, that definitely they were parking the bus and they were done.
And they didn't. And they played most of the rest of that game in San Jose's half, right? And they were still able to hold off defensively. So I had no problems with it. I think people, again, everybody wants everything, which is I want you to play for all 3 points. You only have 9 points. Oh, by the way, if you lose this game after tying it and more lost points, what are you going to do? The whole deal. So I always think that there's a balance there. You need to keep the players in the game, right? If you lose that game in San Jose after the game in Colorado that sort of happened, we're on the borderline here, Kevin, of the players sort of shutting things down, right? The Galaxy have 9 points. As you mentioned, they're about to be eliminated from Supporters Shield, which, by the way, they can't. That's never happening anyway, right? That's gone.
Mathematically,
right. They can't win. They're not going to win the Western Conference, like that type of thing. They're not going to make the playoffs. That's pretty much a fact at this point, right?
Yeah, I think Sash, the question is safe now.
Yeah, I think he's fine. The whole thing with me is that you still have to keep these guys engaged for the rest of the year. And how do you do that? And you don't do that by just throwing everything and saying, just go ahead and, tactics free. Don't worry about it. No, stay in the tactics, stay in the zones, create your chances and try to finish. The Galaxy didn't finish on the night. That's pretty much a lot of the story of this year is they did not create the offense in order to win these games. A lot of this year is the defense hasn't been strong enough to be able to hold up against this. We now have a long history of this LA Galaxy team. 15 games they've given up. There's 20 games played so far, Kevin. In 15 of those games, they've been behind. All right? So in 15 of those games, they gave up the first goal to start the game. That's 0-10-5. This is another one where they got a point out of it. But 0-10-5, the Galaxy are. They've been outscored 3-1 whenever they allow the first goal. None of that is a successful team. None of that is worthy of sort of, defending any of that. But the defense in this game, yes, they allowed the first goal. The offense was able to dig them out, but the offense should have kept digging them out, and they didn't. And we can even look at this. The Galaxy defense has been this bad before, right? So if we're projecting goals through 34 games, we can look at it. 2020. Right, I keep talking about 2020 because it was only 22 games. It gets a pass as like one of the Galaxy's worst seasons. In terms of defense, 2020 was the worst year for the LA Galaxy. 71 goals, and that's what they were projecting them to give up. 71 goals in that. Now you're at 71 goals. So the defense has been this bad before. Even in 2020, they scored almost 42. They would have scored almost 42 goals, Kevin. So. This is 32.3 goals for the LA Galaxy. Let's see. Can we find goals for? Let's see. LA Galaxy goals scored. They're at 19. They had almost 70 last year. They're scheduled to finish with 30, right? Is that where we're at? 32.3. 32.3 goals. Let's go and find 32. Up 2020, where they only played 22 games, they had 27 goals. So that would be closest. But go look and find where 30 is. Bottom line is we're seeing an offense so historically bad and having to rely so much on the defense that this LA Galaxy team has 9 points through 20 games.
Well, you brought up a good point about not losing the players, keeping the players activated, and stopping them from quitting. Essentially, I don't think they've done that yet. I don't think you can accuse them of that. But it's early. Today it's July 1st, right? Well, when this
June 30th
comes out,
we're
June
live
30th.
right now. All right, so it is June 30th. All right, so
almost July. So we have July, August, September, October to go. 4 months to go. And we're going to have a summer transfer window in there, and Will Kuntz may sign Ronaldo, or who knows what's going to happen.
don't say that. Now everybody's going to be saying now.
Yeah, I
we're
know
gonna
he's
have to fight
signed.
that up.
He's already signed with a Saudi team. They're going to sign. They may or may not sign anybody. My point would be, I think Greg Vanney has to. This is a very difficult spot for Greg Vanney and Will Kuntz, is that they have to give the players a reason to keep fighting, and they have to convince them that it's worth coming back next year.
Yep.
Because it could be very easy to get in this thing of, screw it, we suck now, we're going to suck next year. They didn't do anything in the summer transfer window. Peck can't score into the ocean, and I'm going to spend my off season drinking on the beach, forget the weight room. They have to give them a reason to keep wanting to play, and that's going to be hard to do because they don't have a common goal to chase. Now, do players start thinking about their statistics and maybe trying to get raises or bonuses that they may be owed? Do players play for wins? This is a really difficult position, I think, for Greg Vanney to be in. We'll see, what kind of a manager he is.
Yeah, the LA Galaxy, by the way, 7 shots on target, just 1 goal in that. Do you remember how I said that the numbers sort of tell you that the field was bad? I can prove it. Here's my proof that the field was bad. Greg Vanney said it afterwards, but I also noticed it. Look at the total passes between San Jose and the LA Galaxy. San Jose had 397 and the Galaxy had 404. When do you remember the last time an LA Galaxy team had just 400 passes in a game? The answer to that was the field was choppy. They didn't like building out of the back. So instead, especially Novak, and this was from Greg Vanney afterwards, he said Novak especially didn't feel comfortable building out of the back. So instead, they went to play more direct. And because they went more direct, look at their passing accuracy as well. In the 77s, the Galaxy are always in the 80s whenever it comes to passing accuracy. So whenever you start going more direct, you're going to lose those because you're trying for longer passes and all that. Only 404 passes. So for people who always, and I understand the criticism, but for when they say, the Galaxy never changed tactics and they never do anything, this was a game they changed tactics. They went more direct. They created 6 chances off of it. Maybe there's some lessons to be learned there. But I'll tell you, the big lesson that was learned, or at least the big lesson that everybody sort of saw, was Gabriel Peck put himself in positions to be able to run in behind people and got the ball and was able to create chances. He didn't score any of those, but he created chances. Joseph Paintsil put himself in positions to run in behind San Jose, and he got chances. The Galaxy switched Paintsil and Peck and swapped them on different sides. So that way, Peck went over to the left-hand side. I think Paintsil went over to the right-hand side. They got chances. I guess that's the positive in this, knowing that the LA Galaxy should have probably had their first win on the road, and they didn't. But going to Stanford Stadium, which, by the way, small, tiny rant, tech capital of the world, right? In terms of Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, we know tech is crazy. If you've been up to San Francisco, the Waymo cars are all over the place, right? They're in Palo Alto. They're at Stanford University, one of the top universities in the world, Stanford University. And they can't get the internet to work for the away game press conference. It's barely on. It's like somebody's cell phone is hanging. They have a hanger and they're sort of leaning out the window in order to try to do it. Not only that, but the locker room's 7-minute walk from the field. You have to go all the way down out of the. It's outside the bowl of Stanford Stadium. It's all just crap. That's what I'd like to point out, is that in the tech capital world, they couldn't get the internet to work. We did have a press conference and we did get it, but he was talking about, Greg Vanney was sort of talking about just some of the successes they had. And maybe there's something to it. Some of me wants to say Joseph Paintsil needs a rest and you just set him down because his head seems like it's too busy. Who are you going to put there? You can put Cuevas there. Maybe if you want to play on the right-hand side, you put Cuevas up there and sort of have fun with it. By the way, nobody on the LA Galaxy team, Kevin, in my opinion, crosses the ball better than Mauricio Cuevas. And so the more you get him in there, the better the crosses are going to be, the more goals Nascimento is going to score. So I want to see more Cuevas whenever that comes around.
You talked about Peck and Paintsil and their ability to get in position to score and to be dangerous. It was interesting in that they both sort of met with the same fade in that they didn't score, but for different reasons. Paintsil just couldn't find the net for, with his GPS. He just was, every shot he took just in the 15th row. Peck got stopped twice by just a remarkable save by Danielle. He easily could have had 2 goals, probably more than that. But I mean, I think he got robbed twice.
Yeah, no, he did. By the way, my meniscus hurt says, yeah, but both teams played on the same field. Yeah, probably why it was 1-1. It's probably also why San Jose had an XG of like 0.6, all right, or 0.9, depending on where you're coming from, right? I didn't see Bruce Arena, and Bruce would never elaborate on such things. Actually, he might. He would call the field crap, only he would swear and not just the whole deal. But no, it was but the Galaxy played better. That's funny because I say the Galaxy played better. If you look at FOTMob ratings, they actually have San Jose playing better by 0.2, but I disagree with some of the ratings on here. Like Amicevic at 6.3, I didn't see him do anything wrong. He actually came up with some big saves and did some stuff there. I had no problems with that. I thought Aude played fine, so the 6.8 there. So, it's borderline of who played better in this game, but I guess if you're looking at the ratings 7-0 to 6-8, maybe it comes out as a 1-1 draw. Maybe that's what it ended up being. That being said, 6 big chances for the LA Galaxy and no conversion.
And they gave Garces I think Garces has been more liability than an asset lately, but he had a good game.
He had a good game. I think Greg Vanney said he had a good game. He was tasked with playing against Preston Judd. Somebody wrote to me because Preston Judd said not nice things to Marco Royce. By the way, Preston Judd tried to go up against like head to head with Marco Royce, and Amiro Garces wasn't having any of that crap. I will be the first to say that Amiro Garces is undisciplined in a lot of things that he does. But with Preston Judd yelling F you, F you, F you across the field, focused right on Amiro Garces all the way into the tunnel. Somebody wrote on Twitter, says, he's being influenced by all those Bash Brothers. He's got Bash Brothers disease from up in San Jose, right? But Preston Judd was begging for trying to get Amiro Garces a red card. That was his only goal. Maybe if Preston Judd tried to score goals, he would have scored goals. Instead, he was just focused on trying to get Amiro Garces thrown out of the game. And Preston Judd said, well, I'm going to be really physical against Amiro Garces. And what did Amiro Garces do? He said, yeah, bring it. I'll be as physical as you want to be. And he was successful. I thought Preston Judd had a not good game. By the way, kudos to Bruce Arena for starting Preston Judd against his old team. That is a Bruce Arena 101 move, right?
Dave Romney, too.
Well, Dave has been playing, right? But a lot more than Judd. Judd hasn't been starting all the games. But no, it's watching Preston Judd get frustrated out there. That's where, in my opinion, San Jose lost this game at halftime whenever Preston Judd was yelling at everybody down the tunnel and people had to separate themselves as they were going to the tunnel, because San Jose had momentum in the first half. They had the 1-goal lead, and they come out in the second half, and apparently they just decided to try to be physical again, which a Bruce Arena sign. I would even imagine even Bruce would probably take some criticism of how San Jose sort of floated away in that game. Galaxy dominated a lot of the second half. So watching that sort of play out, I was surprised. I thought Amiro Garces played well. Basically, a long-winded answer is that I thought Amiro Garces played really well. In that situation, it lined up perfectly for him, and I thought he did well. So he gets the criticism whenever he's been undisciplined and a liability, as you pointed out. This particular time, his what is it? His physicality, his want for physical play, I think it helped out the Galaxy in this, and I thought he played really well.
So if you notice that, if Greg notices that, does that maybe suggest how you handle him in the future? Hey, Garces, they're talking about you over there. They say you're soft. Do you plant that bug in his ear?
No, I'm afraid. I was convinced that somebody was getting red carded. And at one point, all the LA Galaxy players on the back line had a yellow card, except Miki Amane, I think, escaped without one. So all the other defenders had a yellow card. I was like, geez. By the way, Zonka got his yellow card in the first minute, 52 seconds in. I was like, well, that seemed a little quick on that one. So, no, it was. I thought that part of it was good. The guy we haven't talked about, although we've mentioned him a bunch of times, is Marco Royce. Marco Royce makes the team of the match day bench. He had a goal. He should have probably maybe had an assist. Maybe he should have had another goal as well. But Marco Royce now, in his last 10 games, 10 goal contributions, 4 goals, 6 assists. Has been the best player for the LA Galaxy, very clearly. In his last 9 games, all starts, Marco Royce has gone 90 minutes. I asked Greg Vanney about Marco Royce because we ask about Marco Royce all the time, but I'm like, he went 90 minutes in Colorado and then he went 90 minutes against San Jose. One is I thought him going 90 minutes against San Jose or against Colorado was stupid, right? You're losing that game 2-0. Why are you going to leave him out on the field the whole deal? So
at altitude.
Yeah, at altitude, right? And then knowing that you have a game on Saturday that you were going to need him to go 90 minutes or something for. So Greg Vanney said something, and I thought this was interesting. So I'll read from Greg Vanney's postgame. He says, I think I mentioned to you guys a little while ago, he said he's felt as good as he's felt in a long time. So we have conversations during the game. I check on him during the game, and he's letting me know how he's feeling. He knows himself better than any of us know him. When he's out there, if I feel like he's contributing for the group, which he was and he is, then it's really on him to let me know how he feels or how he is going to feel, is where he feels he's at. Again, he's not a guy who's inexperienced with his body and all that. So we let him kind of let us know how he's doing. And then he mentions, on the other hand, you have Nascimento, and Nascimento was feeling something a little at halftime, and we were talking 10 to 15 minutes that he was going to get in the second half just because he was feeling a little bit grumbling in his stomach. And in his groin area, he was going so well. I gave him an extra 5 or 10, and then we got the goal. And then we felt like we needed to get him out. So he was a little bit different in those cases. But basically, the answer to all that is, and I think it's a fair answer, Kevin, especially for you, me, for Greg Vanney, everybody else, is Marco Royce knows his own dang body. He's going to tell you whenever he needs to come out.
He's a 3-time Bundesliga Player of the Year. He played in Champions League. The last game he played in Europe was Champions League final. Another thing that's interesting, and we talked about him being the all-heart guy, and you said last 9 starts, 90 minutes. He wore the armband, I think, for the first time at the start of a game.
Yes.
Scored the goal.
Yes.
Definitely is standing up and proving to be that leader. I thought last year, I really felt at the beginning when he first came in that he was talking pretty big, which is fine. Again, 3 times, what he's accomplished, he has the right to do that. But I felt he was looking down his nose a little bit about at MLS. I see a different guy this year. I think this is a guy that is really trying to do what he can to lift this team up by the scruff of the neck and carry them somewhere. Where I don't know.
He's frustrated,
but
though.
He's definitely plugged in, and I didn't really get the feeling that he was last year.
He's frustrated, though. Like, you could see it in him. Like, and by the way, how can you not be frustrated? The Galaxy have 9 points in 20 games. It's not. I mean, at this point, anybody who's watching the Galaxy is probably frustrated with the wasted time spent on the season.
It would be easy for him to say, hey, I won championships in Europe. You guys are, but he's not doing that. Yeah, and that's to his credit. I'm not trying to diss him. I'm saying all the credit in the world to the way he's kind of turned around. And you're right. I think he's frustrated. And he says, this is going to go on the back of my baseball card this season, and I don't want it on there.
No. He doesn't like that, right? I'm Marco Royce, and, I win things for that type of thing. So, by the way, did you see Zlatan was sort of saying that Messi wasn't playing with any sort of a talented team and stuff like that? Marco Royce could do that.
Team of statues.
Yeah. Marco Royce could be out there. Marco Royce could say, I'm playing with traffic cones out here, right? And then somebody goes, they were cones. So anyway, that's still my wedding singer joke that I love every single time. But Marco Royce in there. Marco Royce has been great. His 90 minutes in the last 9 games is a lot. He started the last 9 games. The guy has, I think it's as we predicted, which was we expected him to have a big role on this team if he was healthy, Kevin. And so he's been healthy. So now the Galaxy have to hope, and Marco Royce has to hope, and everybody has to hope that he stays healthy. Because if he gets hurt at any point here, that's going to be that really is the end of the season for the LA Galaxy. We're already close to that, but it really will be the end of the season for the Galaxy because I just don't think they'll have the ponies to even try to attempt it. They were the better team in San Jose. They should have won the game. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. They're the mayor of that town, and they're going to continue to be the mayor of that town.
And Royce is coming back next year, correct? He has 1 more year left.
I believe he does. Yeah, let me see if I can bring it up and just once again make it through 2026. Yeah, the point I was going to make in that is that when you talk about what you do in these last 3 months, because it's all about preparation for next year, in my mind, physical, mental, everything, it's all about preparation. Marco Royce is part of that. Do I want to work in the offseason and come back to a team that has no chance at all and just directionless? Or can I will this team into having some positive vibes at the end of the season so that we go in the offseason, all of us, wanting to work hard to come back? Well, also Leagues Cup, right? You have a Leagues Cup that is going to be, we have a clean slate in Leagues Cup. We're going to come, this is I'm giving Greg Vanney's speech, right? Clean slate in Leagues Cup. You guys want to walk away with the trophy this year? Let's walk away with the trophy. Let's go all in on Leagues Cup. Don't have to worry about the league. Campeones Cup, that's going to come up in September. Be ready for that. We got to win that trophy. Galaxy win, Leagues Cup and Campeones Cup, and all of a sudden the season wasn't completely, nothing for nothing. That being said, also winning Wooden Spoon would be quite the three.
They could win two trophies in the Wooden Spoon in the same season. That's possible.
I think it was incredibly kind of us to think that they're going to be competitive in Leagues Cup at this point. I don't doubt that they're going to be fired up for it, and I don't doubt that they will be able to focus on it, unlike some other teams, right? And last year it was sort of like, hey, play your 3 games and then play 1 game in the group and then get out, right? Like that type of thing, and that's what the Galaxy did. And got it done. Let's get to some super chats now. Alexander, $5 super chat. Yes.
I got a quick update.
Yes.
You mentioned Zlatan. He was talking about Messi losing in the Club World Cup.
Right.
Al Hilal, and I know I pronounced that wrong. The Saudi Arabian team just eliminated Manchester City.
Oh.
In the round of 16 on the FIFA Club World Cup.
Look out.
So there you go.
All right. See, there's your update. All
super
right.
chats.
Super chats, because we got a bunch of them. Alexander, $5 super chat. Why is MLS having games during the Gold Cup? I hope MLS doesn't do this during the World Cup next year. Think there'll be a bigger break for the World Cup, but I do not expect MLS to take the World Cup completely off. I think the group stages, they'll probably have some time off. But Kevin, have you heard about scheduling yet for World Cup and what they're planning?
I think it's the same thing. The NWSL took a long break for the women's Euros and stuff, and all kudos to them. But it's hard to take 6 weeks off in the middle of the season. I don't think they will either. But one of the things about the Gold Cup, going up against Club World Cup and MLS, attendance is down by like 33% in the Gold Cup. It's terrible. It's averaging less than 20,000 a game. I think we are getting to the point where, soccer promoters need to realize that there is a finite number of soccer fans with disposable income that can go to these games.
Right.
They will definitely take the group stage off in the World Cup next year, a couple of weeks, but they'll be playing. They're going to have to schedule it very, very carefully. You don't want a full slate of MLS games on the day of the World Cup final. That would be stupid.
Yeah, you need to avoid that, right? So especially like semifinals, quarterfinals, that type of thing, you need to sort of watch how you do that. So usually some of those games can be played on weekdays and then weekends, and so maybe you can offset some of those. Alexander, $5 super chat. Does MLS do well with NBA, NFL, and NHL not on TV? Only competes with Major League Baseball, but for me, I'd rather watch an MLS game any day rather than baseball. I've been watching some baseball games. I watch all sorts of sports. I'm sure you do. You're paid to watch all sorts of different sports, aren't you?
Yeah, that's why I don't watch it when I'm not getting paid. But I will say that they do surveys of this all the time, and soccer is, and it's just they just call it soccer. They don't say MLS.
Right.
All soccer. It's past hockey, and it's passing depending on what the poll. Sometimes it's ahead, sometimes it's behind baseball as far as Americans' favorite sport that they follow. The NBA and NFL, they've gone, they've left, they've checked out. We'll never catch them. But soccer is doing pretty well against hockey and baseball.
That's not too bad. All right. Alexander, $5 super chat. The first away win will come against LAFC. I know. I like the prediction. Does MLS count the game at BMO as away since it's Los Angeles? Yes, it is an away game because it's not in your stadium, and it is at the other person's stadium. Adam, $5 super chat. Hey guys, I know Yoshida and Zonka are under contract for one more year after this year, but will they both be starters next season for the LA Galaxy? I'm not even sure they'll both be here for the LA Galaxy next year. We'll see. That's TBD. I'm interested, and I think it's important. What we should do is, and we'll make this our formal request here, Kevin. I think we need to talk to Will Kuntz because we have the transfer window coming up. I think it's time for Will to come on and maybe sort of lay out the plan and the expectations for the LA Galaxy. I'd love to see it because I think at this point I don't know what to expect. I think the way I've certainly been led to believe so far about the transfer window and everything that's going on is the LA Galaxy will make a move in the summer if it's the right fit for the team and it fits in 2026 as well. They're not going to bring somebody in for this year, or if they are, it's just for this year. We know it's just for this year, and it's going to be probably not a very high caliber player. It's just like,
Billy Sharp,
like, rental type of thing, so it'll be something like that. I believe that's it. I do not expect that there's a lot of movement. I am interested to see what the Galaxy are selling, because I think there are some assets to sell. One of the
goalkeeper you can get rid of.
Absolutely, goalkeepers is high in the mind. One of the other things was, and I think I got this information on Thursday, but I didn't get a chance, or I didn't get the official sources until Friday. So I just want to go back to it. But there was rumors that Palmeiras had sought information about Gabriel Peck. That may be true. But as of right now, there has been no contact between the LA Galaxy and Palmeiras. And I believe that was true as of Friday. So unless they picked it up on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, that's the case. So I wanted to put that in there. I do not believe Gabriel Peck is for sale. I do not believe that, Joseph Paintsil is for sale. Although I could see something where Joseph Paintsil goes back. I'm not convinced, and this is totally just conjecture. I have no information. Just watching Joseph Paintsil play this year, watching it, I don't know that he's super happy to be in Los Angeles right now. I don't know if it's homesickness or anything like that. But I feel like I felt like last year there were times where he was sort of like, I could go somewhere else, like that type of thing. So I don't know if being in Europe is better for him, closer to his family and the trips are a little bit easier. But something's not right this year. And I'm interested to see what that is.
And you talk about Peck going back to South America. I talked to him at length at the end of the last season, and granted, his season has not been what he hoped it would be.
Right.
But he has a sight set on Europe, and I think he feels like MLS is the right path is South America to MLS to Europe, and I think he feels if he goes back to South America, then he's taking a step backwards, which he would be. So I don't see him, if he has a chance, if he has a say, I don't see him approving any kind of a deal. I think he'd rather play another year or two here, try to improve, and get over to Europe.
Yeah, I agree. That's why Palmeiras, again, I think Eric and I talked about it, seems more like a sideways move if it was ever going to be. But as of right now, I don't believe there's anything to it.
And I don't see Yoshida going. And you talked about Zonk and Yoshida. When Yoshida talked to me about his salary getting cut, and it was cut about in half.
Right.
He's still making a little bit more than you, maybe a few dollars more than you. But, he did about 600,000, 550,000. But he talked about when he took that deal, he asked for an extra year. And the reason he wanted that, he wanted to be here in the World Cup.
Right.
He thinks that there's some things he can do, maybe as a broadcaster, as a journalist, as something. He wants to stay here through the World Cup. I would be surprised if he was the one to move on or go anywhere else other than LA. I don't know what Zonka's situation is.
Yeah, again, it's just, one of those things. I just feel like, by the way, I thought Zonka had a good game. And so I had zero issues with play. A lot of times we can be critical. I'm not going to be critical of guys whenever they play well. I think, again, perfectly fair to criticize when they don't play well, perfectly fair to tell you that they played well when they did. So we always try to keep that at least above board and as even as we can. Alexander, $5 super chat. Carlos Ruiz deserves a statue since his goal gave the Galaxy the first MLS Cup in 2002. Sure, he's just way down on the list. I mean, eventually you could probably get there to him. But I don't know that he's high on the list. You have Kobe Jones in there. You have Robbie Keane, who's still in there. I think Bruce Arena probably deserves one. I think Joe Tutino, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Joe Tutino deserves a statue in somewhere in that complex. So there's Siggy Schmidt could quite possibly be honored as a statue there as well. So there's lots of guys who are there who are going to. Now you're getting into the first ones were easy, right? And by the way, David Beckham probably shouldn't have been first, but he's David Beckham, and I understand that. Landon Donovan getting one, yeah, that was kind of Kobe Jones getting. Yep, 100% makes some sense, right?
I think Kobe should have been first. I would have picked if all things considered, yes. Kobe should have been first. But I get it. You're gonna unveil the statues. You got to start with the guy who's married to the Spice Girl.
Yeah. So that's Mrs. Beckham to you. Gus Ortiz. Gus gives a $10 super chat. Been saying it since last season. Paintsil was a live wire, getting yellows for arguing. This season, his goals aren't offsetting the liability. Bench Paintsil. Start Ramirez. Fine with the benching, although I think you have to worry about some of the mental ramifications if that's the way you go, and if he's already a guy who's sort of homesick and he's not enjoying playing soccer and that thing. Again, just conjecture. I have no information to say that, but I don't think Ramirez is a winger, so I don't think that's going to happen. Let's see. Steven, $10 super chat. If you saw LAFC versus Vancouver Whitecaps match yesterday, I did watch a lot of that, by the way. There is no way in HE double hockey sticks Galaxy is going to win at 4th of July. I actually thought that Vancouver looked like they could be beat. It was a 1-0 win for Vancouver. Again, I think LAFC probably hurt themselves by starting Olivier Giroud, and it was his last game with them. But I understand why you'd try it, but there's just nothing there, and I think that probably hurt him more than anything. Yes.
Giroud said some really interesting things about the way LAFC plays and how they play, feed from one wing just to aim it at Boanga, and that's how they set up. And Vancouver definitely, they knew that. And maybe they talked to Giroud before the game, but they defensed that so well. One thing that maybe the Galaxy has going, or Vancouver has going for them, is July 4th is not a holiday in Vancouver. Maybe the Galaxy will be all barbecued out and out by the pool and come to the game, and Vancouver will just be kind of like, this is just another Friday for us.
Yep.
And I don't know, maybe by the way, when you talk about Joseph Paintsil, the first guy that leapt to my mind is Samuel Grandsir. Kind of the same thing. Came over, was a productive player, played well, and then just said, I'm homesick. He had family issues as well. I'm going to stay in France.
Yeah. And you can understand that. Crazy. $5 super chat. Thanks for recommending Dick's Sporting Goods Stadium. Me and Adam, his 9-year-old, love the stadium. Both your early predictions for 2026 season for the LA Galaxy. Come on, Kevin. Guess what's going to happen in 2026 for the LA Galaxy right now? I mean, you don't know who's going to be on the team.
No.
You don't know who's going to be coaching it. I don't know if Greg Bandy survives this if he only has 9 points through the rest of the whole deal. I'm certainly not going to sit there. Everything's fine. I imagine he makes it. Yes.
We talked about the World Cup, though. The Galaxy have the advantage of no one on their team, at least is going to be on the U.S. World Cup team. So they're going to be full strength the whole World Cup.
That's going to worry about that. Well, interestingly enough, whenever Vancouver comes in, they still have some guys with the U.S. men's national team right now. And so if you are an LA Galaxy fan and you're hoping for the ability to beat them on July 4th, pray that the U.S. wins their next game in the semis, right?
By the way, did you hear all the controversy about showing Berhalter when his son, when Sebastian missed the penalty kick in the game deciding penalty kick shootout? The camera was on him. It would have been on him if he made the kick, missed the kick, fell down. I don't think there was any controversy. You wanted to see his reaction either way. I think they thought. I think, in all fairness, the broadcasters thought for sure, let's get the coach when his son makes the winning penalty kick.
Right.
It didn't work out that way.
No.
But I thought that was really unfair. You want to see his reaction one way or the other.
I thought it was a genuine reaction. I think it was. I don't know if it was one of his sisters. I imagined it was, but so she was upset by it, as you would be. I mean, if you want to put a camera on me during my kids' U6 game, man, there's some faces I make. That's for sure. So that's what we got for super chats in there. The LA Galaxy playing Vancouver Whitecaps coming up on July 4th at 7:30 p.m.
Fireworks.
Yep, 7:40 p.m. is your kickoff time. Just to give you an idea on that. Let's see if I can give you anything else.
9th consecutive firework show for the Galaxy.
It is. It can't be consecutive though because they didn't do it
missed the COVID
during
one.
COVID.
Yes,
All that I pointed this out on the podcast. All they needed to do was have Cosmo go out there with a little sparkler. And you would have said fireworks show continued, and then you would have said this is continue the whole deal. But they didn't want to listen to me, and they didn't do it. So,
speaking of Cosmo, I got a Cosmo story. I was at a journalism event this weekend, and a woman who's a teacher at Santa Monica City College and also listens to the pod. It was her son. I think it was her son had a bar mitzvah, and they brought Cosmo. Cosmo came.
Yep, I heard. I saw.
Part of the festivities.
I saw the video from that. We are, by the way, tentatively July 20th. Cosmo and the Star Squad possibly back down at the railroad again. So we're gonna try to do that this time. Cosmo recovering from his injury. So
when are we going to do another live pod? I wish we could do the dog adoption one again, but obviously the Galaxy have not listened to our pleas to do that.
No.
So we got to come up with another place.
We need to do one. There's this thing that happens. It's called life, and apparently, you should see my whole week is planned because Tuesday night is usually my night off. But we're members at the Y now, so now we're going swimming on Tuesday nights. So now we go swimming on Tuesday nights. Then my kid has swimming on Wednesday nights. Then it's podcast on Thursday nights. Then it's Friday night is like a night I usually have off, but we go out and do stuff as a family. If you want to be a podcaster and a soccer, just don't have kids. I think that's the real lesson here. So no, it's fun. By the way, schedule change. Because for this week, because the game is on Friday, we're going to do a podcast on Wednesday night. So it's going to be Monday, Wednesday. So everybody buckle up for Wednesday. And we will do that way. By the way the Galaxy are supposed to have their press conference, match day -2 on Wednesday. So we should get all the information.
Wow, that was a curveball. I thought where you're going with that whole schedule is so screw the midweek pod. We're not going to do it. No. You added an extra day at work.
I just decided to go Wednesday and then not do Thursday. Also, I have family coming in town, so the podcast studio behind me turns into a bedroom, and so that's gonna, that's it. So don't worry, we'll be ready to go on Monday again, though. So we're all good. Let's see. Is there anything else that I want to get to? I don't know. Schedule for the LA Galaxy coming up. We've talked about it. Vancouver on Saturday. or excuse me, on Friday. And then you have, as Kevin, you pointed out in our pregame, 8 days, and then they'll play DC United. Then they'll host Austin on July 16th. July 19th, it's El Tráfico away at LAFC. Then July 25th in Houston, 5:30 p.m. Can I predict weather in Houston on July 25th at 7:30 p.m. Houston time? It will be humid, chances of thunderstorms, possible delays. And I know there's controversy right now because apparently Europeans didn't realize that we actually have weather here in the United States, but we do, and so there will be. Did you see Canada coming out and saying, "Hey, we'll take more games. We'll play some games up there. It's not a bad idea. It's cooler up there, but they still get thunderstorms, so I don't want to hear it."
Yeah, I mean the weather on the East Coast has been horrific, and we talked about this when they were choosing the World Cup sites. It's like you got AT&T, it's got a roof right in the middle of the country. Play the game there, but they're going to go to East Rutherford. I would not be surprised if the weather was horrific for the World Cup final. If it's not raining, it'll be humid. You saw these European players nearly passing out during the Club World Cup. It's going to be brutal. What does that sound?
I have no idea. I blame you. Whatever it is.
I think maybe there's a helicopter landing. Oh, yeah, there.
Is there? No?
Helicopter landing. No, I don't know. It sounds like a helicopter.
I have no idea. It's not there anymore. Went away. So no, I'm interested to see the weather stuff. I do find it interesting that there is a city in the United States that doesn't usually suffer from thunderstorms, is close to the coast, usually gets a pretty nice sea breeze, but not getting very many soccer games, World Cup games, in Los Angeles. Just wanted to point out that we
get 8, just not the first 2 U.S. or 2 of the 3 U.S. group play games, but I mean. The Club World Cup did the same thing. They had 6 games at the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl drew better than any other stadium in the country. 80,000 for the first game. The weather was hot, but it wasn't humid. It was playable. You could survive. I went to 3 of the games. I know it was survivable.
Yeah, you were in the air conditioning, and you said you were in the air conditioning in the Rose Bowl, and you're like, you know what? This is okay, guys. It's okay.
I had to go out and get my cocktails and stuff.
Obviously.
But I mean, and then after the group play, no more games here, and so they're playing, and a lot of the Europeans have complained about what a joke it is, the weather, and they're not familiar with the whole hydration break. I know they get them in international tournaments, but a lot of the players were kind of like, what is this? We get to stop and have a drink? Do we get orange slices too?
Is that little Capri Sun? Whenever you drink a Capri Sun, Kevin, because I know you do it all the time, do you still try to put it in the top of the Capri, where the little straw hole is, or do you just flip it over and stuff it into the bottom?
No, I go through the straw hole, and you got to find the pointy end to go in there.
See, that's the rookie move. You're gonna pound that thing anyway. Flip it over, use the bottom, poke that straw right through. You're good, done, all set. Anyway, that's it.
Let's try that.
Yeah, the LA Galaxy coming up on a Friday, July 4th game, fireworks, all the fun stuff going on. In addition to some of their normal stuff, there's some festive concessions as well, like the bomb pop shaker cocktail and barbecue pulled pork dog, and in addition to a live performance by guitarist Philip Manasala of Mice and Men, which is actually, I love of Mice and Men, great band, as part of the club's Sounds of the Galaxy series. So that's going on there. Galaxy training today on Monday. They will train again Tuesday. They will train again on Wednesday. It looks like, let's see, Thursday will probably be a walkthrough, and then Friday they'll be out at the stadium. That's it. Once again, a reminder just for everybody, I will not be there on Friday. So this is, I've called off the July 4th games.
Attendance has already declined by 1 more.
By 1 more, I know. I don't think they count us. Do we get counted as? We don't get counted as attendance. No, we don't. That's good. That's nice. During COVID, though, they should have. There were 7 of us there, and a really good time. So always interesting to think back. You ever look back at the COVID games and be like, horrible thing going on in the country, but we had a good time.
we had people don't know, but we sat out on the concourse and we had our own little table, and there were fake plants bushes on either side,
fake hedges,
to kind of create a barrier. But we were in the elements, and we could hear the players and stuff. At BMO, we actually, every journalist got his own suite, because luxury suites obviously weren't being used,
right? And
that was a way to wall us off from everybody else. So you were told, like, your suite number 8, and you would go in there and close the door, and you had your own suite.
Man, I liked ours. We were on the corner there. We could chill, but it was weird to hear the players like yelling at each other and stuff like that. So always interesting. Anything else you want to get to?
I don't think I want to do it again.
No.
I mean, I would like to do it again, but not for those reasons.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I like the didn't have to wait in line for parking. Didn't have to that was fun. I enjoyed that part. All right. Anything else you want to get to? All right. We didn't have anything to start with, right? Right. Okay. Good.
That is like usual.
All right. If you're looking for Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter on all the socials, it's at kbaxter11. Head on over to latimes.com for all of his wonderful sports coverage. Once again, at kbaxter11 on all the socials and latimes.com. All right. For if you're looking for me on any socials, at Galaxy Podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can go to YouTube, all those fun places. Go to all where you find your podcasts, and you, of course, can find us on any of those places by typing in Corner of the Galaxy. I'm distracted by Kevin and the Panda that looks like he's trying to eat him. I have no idea. All right. Galaxy play Vancouver coming up on July 4th. Our next show on Wednesday night. The Hammer is in line for that one. For Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Patrick Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.